I thought it might be fun to start this video off by better understanding where we've been in file management so you can really appreciate what Directory Opus does and how it works. So we're going to have to use some virtual machines here, so I apologize for the crass presentation here. But let's go back to MS-DOS days. I mean, this was computing, right? When you booted your computer, this is what you got. Right, imagine file management. Where's my file manager? There isn't one. For you to actually navigate and look at your computer, you had to type in commands. dir, show me a directory. cd DOS, change directory. Now do another directory. Hey, there's the file that I want. Ew, right? It's kind of gross. So this is what we had. You had to copy, you had to do moves, you had to do all that stuff all from a command prompt. If you wanted to run something, this is how you did it. So probably could be better, right? Windows 3.1, well, this was the first UI, the first operating system, and their idea of file management isn't much better than what we have today, right? If I were to open up the file manager, this is it. I mean, this was file management. A drive, D drive, C drive. I mean, and let's be honest. If you look at it, if you look at file management today in Windows 11, latest and greatest, we haven't really evolved a whole lot. Microsoft has no real interest in making file management worthwhile. Now, I've talked a lot on this particular channel about something called Norton Commander. Norton Commander invented modern file management. So it took me forever, by the way, to figure out how to do this. I hope you guys can appreciate the level of effort this took to set up. This is Norton Commander. If it's not the first dual pane file manager, it was the one that made it popular. Norton Commander was so popular, you couldn't find a PC without Norton Commander on it. This is a dual file manager proper, and this was back in 1980. Who the hell cares, right? I mean, so this is sort of the evolution of what file management would become. And you can see it's still sitting on top of DOS, right? So this is how we did file management, right? You could go in there, you could tag files, you could copy them over to the other pane, right? And you can see here, this is a ridiculously extensive file manager. 1986 from Symantec. Good Lord. So this was so good. This was so revolutionary. And listen, it's either this, right? Or it's this. It's that or this, right? Of course, this is 100 times better. And believe it or not, this is the genesis of almost all modern file managers, including Directory Opus. Everybody owes their ass to this dual pane Explorer. So in fact, this was so popular, people actually ran it on Windows too, on Windows 3.1, because there was nothing else, right? There was nothing else that could beat it. So people would actually install Norton. Oh, listen, Windows ran on top of DOS. Why not? People would still use Norton Commander inside of Windows 3.1. So that's how good it was. It evolved across operating systems. It's impossible not to acknowledge the power of Norton Commander and what it meant to so many people. Now, once you got to, like, say, Windows XP, the concept of my computer became a thing. So when you wanted to look at what was in your computer, you would go into my computer, and then you would be able to drill into a location. This doesn't look a whole lot different, right? There's some other nonsense over here, but at the end of the day, you're still burrowing with a basic, extraordinarily basic file manager. It's not even really a manager because it doesn't do anything, but you could, right? You could open more than one. So if you wanted to get the Norton experience in 95, 98, XP, this is how you did it. Well, I'm gonna put my source files over here, and I want to copy those over to say my temp folder. So I'm gonna grab these files here, and I'm gonna copy them over here. That's this is how file management has been on Windows since, right? Since Norton Commander, since DOS, since Windows 3.1. And again, this isn't really file management. This is Microsoft's minimum viable product to get you something usable, right? So, and all of this sucks. So when you look at file management and you think, oh, it's just built in, it's included, I don't need to pay for it, I don't need another tool to do it, you really need to understand how things have evolved. And they've evolved thanks to Directory Opus, right? Now, I find it funny though, and a lot of people don't know this, when you look at something like Norton Commander made such an impact that the name Commander is utilized everywhere in modern file management. So if I were to go and search for File Manager Commander, even today, Total Commander, One Commander, right? There's a couple of other ones, Double Commander. Everybody uses the name Commander. Why? Because Norton Commander changed the way that we work. And even today, in 2025, Commander, Norton Commander, Total Commander, the two file list panel, this is what file management should be. And file management out of the box with Windows is not, right? So you need something. You need a file manager. And Directory Opus, of course, is the ipso de facto of doing that. So now that we've talked about the past, about how file management worked, I think we're ready now to look at Directory Opus in sort of a new light and make it our own by configuring Opus to look and act the way we want. All right, so let's start this off by showing you what Directory Opus could look like if you wanted to configure it in a particular way. Obviously, this is sort of the overkill edition, and I apologize, I am in a virtual machine, so things are a little bit slower, but there's all sorts of amazing configuration and possibilities that one could do as part of a Directory Opus setup. Now, before we start over and sort of look at Directory Opus as it comes out of the box and how you might want to configure it, let's save what we have. Now, you might have already played around and you may want to back up everything yourself before we do this. So I am going to do a backup configuration. I'm going to leave everything backed up and you just hit backup and everything will get crunched into a nice little file and you've got a backup. I didn't mean to close that though. All right, now what we'll do is we'll reset the configuration all the way to ground zero. Yes, I really want to do this and it needs to restart. Now what we're going to do is see Directory Opus first run out of the box. So right away, where in previous Directory Opus configurations, it started off as just white and there was no real way to make it dark outside of doing some crazy theming. Obviously, now you can choose dark right off the bat. You can replace Explorer. You can run it with Windows. Desktop double click, right? Use the built-in Opus Image Viewer, which I recommend. So those are immediate, like first run, that's the first thing you can configure. So now what we have here is the sort of Norton Commander style, except for we have a tree view on the side, two different listers, and you can see as I click on them, right? One's a source, one's a destination. Whatever one is currently red is the destination. Whatever one is not red is the source. So, and that's all configurable. You can change those colors. Now, right off the bat, the way that I've got this laid out, I may want to hold down Control and use my scroll wheel and zoom this up. And again, I apologize for the slowdown here. And I can do that for this side as well. And you could even make the zooming permanent based on whatever you like. So just hit make permanent. Perfect. I don't know why this one got zooming back up, but whatever. Let's go over here and make this one permanent too. We'll just make it a little bit different. Okay, fine. I don't know why it's so bloody slow, but it is. Okay, so that's not the fault of Directory Opus. That's my fault for using a virtual machine. So this is it out of the box. And honestly, you'd be forgiven for thinking this isn't worth 60 bucks, right? So let's start talking about what we can. Now you can zoom up, and of course everything is color changeable, font changeable, whatever you want to do. But let me tell you how I set up for quality of life, and then we'll look at some of the frou-frou stuff, right? The visual, the form over function type stuff. Now, I loved Commander's 2 panes, but because I usually turn on a lot more columns, or I need more columns, having them stacked side by side is not very comfortable for me. So I prefer to do them top to bottom, right? So I want to have dual horizontal listers. So one's on top, one's on the bottom. Now remember, the one on top's not always source. It's whichever one that you're in. So if I were to select this and go up and hit copy files, this is the source, this is the destination, and that would just work. Well, except for it's in the same folder, but I digress. So for me, that's like the first hit. Now, the other thing is, so for me, I do a lot of file management, copy, move, delete, and those features are here. So if I go all the way down here and I want to delete this empty folder, now, yeah, I could reach up to the keyboard and hit delete, but I have to make this long trip. I know this sounds stupid, right? A long trip up to delete. Long trips, right? It's longer than you think, Dad. It's longer than you think. So why not put these quick actions somewhere closer? So we'll go into customize mode. And for those of you not familiar with customize mode, this puts Opus in a very strange state. Some things will continue to work, but some things won't until you get out. If you lose this window, which is really easy to do, there's always a commit and cancel up here at the top. That's a great new feature, by the way. If you haven't watched my new Directory Opus 13 features, you might want to look at that. So once it's in this mode, you'll see I get some handles on these toolbars. So now I can just grab that toolbar and drag it somewhere where it makes sense, which would be right near my file listers, right? Not the one at the top, not the one at the bottom, but in between. So if I want to quickly delete this folder, it's a very short, oh, I'm in customize mode. See, I told you you'd get bit by that. Let me go ahead and commit my customize. There. Now we can jump up and hit delete. Perfect. If you wanted to do that copy, right? Quick copy over. Of course, you can't copy on top of itself. But you get the idea. So all of my commands here are now available closer to the files that they impact. That's perfect. Of course, you can do all the sorts of things that you like by shrinking that or making one of these bigger than the other. You may have that sort of option in mind. So we've done real basic quality of life. Now, if you live in, say, pictures, right? You spend a lot of your time. I go to my Directory Opus 13 files, and you live in photos. This is what you do all frickin' day long, right? If you hover over it, you get this nice little preview. And I don't know if Windows Explorer does that yet or not. If it doesn't, it oughta. But you can also see that it shows all of these types of metadata, especially things from your camera, right? You're a professional photographer. These things matter to you, I promise. So you can, of course, open this viewer pane and quickly cycle through these pictures to find out what you want. And you can even stack the meta pane on top of that. So not only can you have instant access to seeing the picture, but also getting all of those properties that are actually important to camera professionals. And you can do this with different types of things. This also works with certain types of documents, say a PDF, right? It's got to initiate that PDF engine the first time. But yeah, so you do have a PDF viewer, text viewer, all of these sorts of things along with metadata are available. So those are things that maybe you need in your workflow, but maybe you don't. So those are the sorts of things you can configure. So the other things that I really like to do, of course, are configuring my columns. And it also depends on what folder I'm in, right? If you are a photo nut or photo professional, this is not enough information for you. You need columns related to photography, right? So all of this picture metadata is available to you. If you need the dimensions, you want to see the aspect ratios, the height, the width, rotation bits, all of that stuff, bit depth, 24-bit. You can just sit here and add these columns constantly to whatever you need for your workflow. Dimensions. Perfect. That's something that like everybody might want. And you're not limited, by the way. You can move the dimensions over here. Maybe that is more important than file size. Maybe the type, because it's always images, means less to you. So move that over. So that's the sort of thing that I'm talking about. And you can go into the Photos folder format and commit this so that it's always this way. Replace this format in any layout, save layouts, blah, blah, blah. These are a little more technical. I just want you to know that you can. So if I were to leave Photos, it goes back to the standard stuff. If I go back into Photos, I get the view that I want. That's worth $60 to the right person. Being able to go to MP3s or FLACs or to pictures or to other types of music, other document types, being able to fully customize the experience top to bottom is what Directory Opus promises and definitely what it delivers. So let's show you just a few more basic things. This video is running a little bit long, and I know you're here to get the coupon code, which is still coming, I promise. The coupon code is still coming here at the end to get your 25% off Directory Opus all on your own. So let me show you just a few more things that are worth your time. Customizing toolbars and keys. We were just in that mode, but let me jump in here again real quick. Now you'll notice that certain things change here. Like this word became spacer. Well, what was that before? Oh, so a spacer is actually a spacer which pushes everything after it all the way to the right. Let's go back to customize again. Ah, okay, nice. Okay, so if I were to move the spacer over here, slideshow and help would get pushed over there. Okay, archive files, I don't use that very often. Definitely don't use help. Heck, I'll just go ahead and delete that. I do use archive files, slideshow sometimes, admin evolution or upgrading yourself to admin. Sometimes I use that, property sometimes I use. Now, not only do we have what we want, but it's also where we want it, all on a custom toolbar. One thing that's missing from here, where the hell are my drives? Shouldn't I have a C, D, E, F? I mean, I got a billion drives on my system. Where the hell are they? Well, they're in another toolbar, and it's one that's not on by default. So click on drives, and you'll see that here's this weird sort of, this is the drives. And you're going, what am I looking at here? Where's my C drive? Well, it's not there because you haven't committed the customize yet. Watch what happens. There you go. On this virtual machine, I only have 2 drives. But that doesn't do you much good up there. You want them down here. So once again, little muscle memory here for you. Go to customize, grab that guy, and let's put it somewhere where it makes sense. Right there. That looks good. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so now my drives, I can click here, go to E, go here, go C, go here, go E, right? So you've got that workflow that kind of works out. So that's good, but there's a lot of dead space in here. Can I just move these things down to here? Well, of course you can. It's Directory Opus, people. So let's go here. These are tokenized representations of what they are, right? So other drives would be anything that's not a fixed drive. So let's move other drives down here, or fixed drives here and other drives right next to it. And you know what? Then we don't need that toolbar anymore. But let's go ahead and check our work. Ah, nice, perfect. So I got my drives and my quick actions, but I can get rid of that toolbar now, right? So let's get rid of that. Let's go back to customize. And we don't need that drives bar anymore because I took everything off. Now, while we're here, there are so many things, the commands that are allowed in Directory Opus, that offer all sorts of things to do, right? So file operations, copy, create, miscellaneous stuff. Every single one of these things is available to you for full customization. All right, so maybe you need a select by pattern. Let's pop that, just drag it up there and pop it in. Now you got select by pattern. And what's your pattern? Let me go to a folder where it makes sense. Let me go into photos, select by pattern, star.png. There you go, select by pattern. And you can fill this bar with whatever the hell you want. Add another bar, fill it with whatever the hell you want. You don't like these things up here? Move them down here, move it over there. Whatever you want to do, don't forget Opus belongs to you. And where you want stuff is important to you. And just because Team Opus thinks that you should have the file search up here, you don't have to have it up there. You can, in fact, take this search and drag it over here, put it before the spacer, and now your search is where it might make a little more sense in between your file listers. Again, sky's the limit here, folks. So I promised you a little bit of form over function stuff. So let's hop in there real quick. So don't forget, customize and preference are two different things. Customize is make the UI the way you want. Preferences is, well, pretty much everything else. Now, the first time you run it, and you may have missed this because you were just clicking through really fast, this will tell you all sorts of stuff. Take a moment and read what they're showing you and what they're telling you. The biggest trick of this whole thing is that there's a search. And I've said it before in these videos, I'll say it again. Search is the greatest thing ever. Anything that has more than one page of preference should have a search bar. So let's say that you wanted to sort of dress your tree up a little bit. Let's go to tree and see what sort of options we might have. So it's building the search index first time. Folder tree appearance. Visual style, you could do lines. Oh, nice. No lines. I kind of like the lines. Well, let's stay, visual, nice. Let's stay with lines. Show drive labels. How do you want the labels to look? Custom indent size, item height, full row selection or not, right? All sorts of good stuff. What sort of contents do you want to see? It's yours. Have you ever used the home button? Ever in a tree view? No, of course not. Do you use favorites? I don't. Gone. Desktop I use, unfortunately. Use FTP? Nope, never. File collections, if you're not using, you should be. Cloud storage? I don't use cloud storage. Let's get rid of that. So then when you apply it, now you've got a nice clean tree. Exactly what you want. So you can also look at things like the animations and everything. Listen, you can go through this on your own and spend tons of time here deciding how you want it to look. And again, you could do it exactly the way you want. Now, one of the things that I like is this highlight path to selected folder because I'm weird like that. Now, you'll notice that every folder that you click into shows a hierarchy line of where you went. So if you go to My Computer and you go to C drive and you go to Windows and you go to System 32, you guys know I'm headed for the host file again, right? Go to System 32, drivers, blah, blah, blah. And you can see that it's giving you this line. It tells you exactly where you're at. I don't know why, but I love it from a visual standpoint. And that's just one way of making it look like what you want. So now let's take a look at something else that might be interesting to you. Let's go to Lister and see. Okay, so there's a ton of Lister stuff here. So we're talking maybe about colors, or how your mouse behaves. Listen, I've got tons of videos digging deeper into these sorts of things, but if you really want to dig in and do, say, font changes, you can do that. So your folder tree, what font do you want over here? I mean, I'm telling you, this is how deep you can go. Arial black. That actually kind of looks good. I might keep that. I might put that on my main thing. And of course, you can decide how big you need it. You got an 8K monitor. You got to zoom this crap up a little bit. Otherwise, you can't see it. Or maybe the tree view is fine being really small, so you get the maximum view. So your location bar, your meta pane data, your dialog boxes, you can do all of this stuff. File display, right? You can sit here and monkey with your file display graphics, fonts, right? You want Tahoma? Great. Where's my oh, I don't have Poppins on here. But if you want to use Gothic, you want to use Serif, whatever you want, you can make it look like that, right? Let's see. Of course, there's ways of, I'm trying to think if there's anything in here that's like super groovy. Let's go to colors again. Color blending, Opus colors. Let me see here. So file display icons, folder tabs. You can change the colors of pretty much anything. Folder tree colors, selected text, unselected text, color of your background. How blind do you want to be, right? My eyes, the goggles do nothing. So you can make this however goofy you want, right? Your destination line, right? Let's see, files and folders. What colors do compressed folders, encrypted folders look like? Queued folders, folder expansion graphics. Everything in here is customizable. right down to the color, right down to the font, right down to the location, everything where you want it to be. Make it your own. Hopefully I've given you at least enough of a taste of what Directory Opus's UI customization can look like. And we've come a long way from Norton Commander, and it's glorious. All right, I know you're waiting around for the coupon code. Here it is, right on the screen right now. This is 25% off. It's good for 2 weeks. And just so you know, I don't get any of this. So the great folks over at Opus allow me to generate a coupon code whenever I feel like it, and I can take a piece of that 25%. I can give you a 10% off coupon and earn 15% of your sales. Don't want to do that. I want you to have maximum savings. I want everybody on the planet to buy and own Directory Opus. So I'm going to give you maximum savings, 25% off right there on the screen. So grab that. Again, it's only good for 2 weeks, so run, run, run. All right, that's it for me for this one. I'm Shane Armanderell. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, and we'll see you next time.